Welcome to Broadway Corner with Ashley Ha, where you can hear your favorite performers talk about how they got started, their careers, and everything in between. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Spotify at Broadway Corner with Ashley Ha, and on my main Broadway account at Broadway_Corner on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy. Hi everyone, welcome back to Broadway Corner with Ashley Ha. I'm so happy you're here, and today we're on a little bit more of a maybe happy ending streak. It's our third standby podcast, which is super excited. And today we're talking to one of these super standbys. It's Daniel May. Hi Daniel, how are you doing?
Hi, good Ashley. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being on the pod. We're so excited to talk about, your long career in the theater. You've been doing this for a long time and done so many groundbreaking shows for the theater industry. So I'll read a bit about you before we get started. So Daniel May is returning to Broadway after many years away and maybe happy ending. And Daniel made his Broadway debut in the 2002 revival of Flower Drum Song starring the one and only Lea Salonga and has been working as a theater artist his whole life. Most recently, Daniel played the lead role of Xūe Xíng in a newly envisioned production of David Henry Hwang and Jeanine's Tesori's Soft Power at the Signature Theater and has been with the piece since the world premiere in Los Angeles at the Center Theater Group, which is actually where I saw it many years ago, and the Public Theater in New York City, which received nominations for both the Pulitzer Prize for Drama and the Grammy Award in 2020. So yeah, you've had a long career, lots of different credits that we'll get to talk to, but it's good to see you in this new year. How is your 2025 going so far?
My gosh, it's been a wild year already, but it's going great. Going great over here. We're having so much fun over at Maybe Happy Ending, and there's a lot of fun stuff coming up. So,
Yes, good to hear. And before we get into the whole maybe happy ending of it all, can we just talk about maybe like your background, where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you discovered theater?
of course, yeah. So I was born in South Korea, in Seoul, metropolitan, as they say in Maybe Happy Ending. And I was adopted when I was really young, like 4 months old, over to California, Southern California, where I grew up in Cerritos. And yeah, I started doing theater as a young kid, just sort of as a recreational um, thing through like the community center and Cypress College. It's a community college near our house. They have a wonderful theater program and a wonderful theater director, Diana Polsky, who a lot of people were really affected by her teaching. Um, and then, yeah, my elementary school auditioned to be the children's chorus in the national tour of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and at the Pantages Theater, and we got cast. And so that was sort of my first like semi professional, experience in the theater. And I totally caught the bug right then. It was just so exciting being in that beautiful theater, backstage, working with all these professionals. We met Andrew Lloyd Webber, and it was really exciting. And then I just started to continue to do community theater. I got into this performing arts group called the West Coast Musical Theater Company in Orange County that was also connected to the Orange County High School of the Arts, OSHA, which is now in Santa Ana. It used to be in Los Alamitos. And I auditioned and went there for 4 years, and that was super formative. We were under the direction of David Green, who he just gave me personally and so many of us so many performing opportunities and just the community we had there. It was really a great place to be at that time, and it sort of set me on the path to do this professionally. Um, yeah, I started to do some regional work while I was in high school at Musical Theater West, and there was a Fullerton Civic Light Opera at the time. Um, and then, got an agent at that point and started auditioning for commercials and some more professional stuff. So then I graduated, I started working professionally, which was
Wow.
exciting.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about OSHA. Recently talked to somebody who goes there currently. It's like it seems like a great place to really cultivate just your talents at a young age. And the whole amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat thing, that's amazing. Because as someone who grew up in California and going to LA all the time, the Pantages is kind of like the theater that you go to, like to see anything and everything that, you want, or any of the touring shows. And so it's like for you to have performed there at such a young age is like that's such, the dream for most people who would grow up here, and just know that as like their local theater that you go to. And obviously also like the Amundsen and all the other theaters, but super, super fun. Fun that we're both California people.
West Coast.
Yes.
Sending love out to LA and everyone on the West Coast right now, especially.
Yes, yes, sending love to everybody. And talking about LA, you starred in, well, you were in and then recently starred in Soft Power at the Signature, but you have been working on that piece like since the beginning, with, Conrad Okamura, David Henry Hwang, everyone who was originally um, in it. And how has it been like working on and evolving with a piece, as the times evolve?
Yeah, it's been thrilling and really life-changing working on soft power. It was so interesting. I was living with Marcus Choi, who's also in Maybe Happy Ending, who was also in Flower Drum Song. We've known each other for a long time. We were living together. And I was running out the apartment one day going to like a catering gig, and he was like, "Hey Danny, are you available next week? I got asked to do this dance lab for this new piece by David Henry Hwang called Soft Power." Like we had no idea what it was about. It was just like a happenstance question timing thing. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I can do that." And it ended up, being the first dance lab with Sam Pinkleton for Soft Power. I think this was before they'd really written any of the music, the amazing Jean Tesori music that was written for it. It was sort of just an idea with, some script. And so, yeah, that was the beginning of my journey with soft power. And I thought, it was just going to be those 3 days. I had no thoughts that I would get to be in the piece or anything. I just thought it was a cool thing I was going to get to do. So then when, I was asked to audition and got cast and the whole process began, it just, and then learning about what the piece was about at that time, getting to do that piece at that time in our country was just a thrill and a real learning experience working with all those amazing people.
Yeah, and especially, bringing it back to when you did it recently too, and revamping it a bit, and still having it hold so much weight in what's going on currently. I mean, I saw it when I was extremely young, but then like growing up and learning about really what it is and the power, the soft power, of it all has really been transformative, especially as a piece that kind of turns the musical on its head and subverts all the expectations that usually Asian Americans have in the theater. And so it's so cool that you got to be a part of it for so long and just really, really give your heart and soul into this piece. Yeah. And let's talk about maybe happy ending. Like, what was the audition process like? Obviously, we know that you know Marcus, who is also in the piece with you as well. How did you get involved here about it? Just the whole story, I guess.
Yeah, I had first heard about Maybe Happy Ending, I think when they were doing it at the Alliance Theater in Atlanta. It was early, like the very beginning of 2020, probably the end of 2019. I just saw it on social media and I was like, this piece looks so cool, like just visually, and Michael Arden was attached to it. But I didn't really know what it was about in depth. Then of course our world shut down and the pandemic happened. And so I was in New York in May doing the workshop for the soft power at Signature Theater. We did like a 10-day, 12-day workshop with David and Jeanine. And I got a self-tape audition request through my agent for Maybe Happy Ending. And I recognized the name and I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds so cool. But we were busy with the workshop. So I my friend Johnny Lee Jr., who was also in Soft Power, we helped each other tape after one of the rehearsals. It was sort of again like when Marcus asked me to do that dance lab, it was sort of something that just sort of happened. It wasn't something that I was like pursuing by any means. It was just like, okay, we got to get this tape done. And um, so it was sort of quick, but I do remember when I taped for it, I was like, wow, this material feels very true to me. Like it just like fit, I hadn't memorized it or anything, but I just, when I sang it for the tape, I was like, oh, that feels really right.
Mhm.
Um, But we sent it off. I didn't really hear anything. There was other castings that went out, so I really thought it had passed, you know. And then when I got to DC in July, in the beginning of July, to start Soft Power rehearsals, I got a call from my agent, and he said, or a text, and he said, "Danny, I have some great news, but it's also really bad news because they want to offer you soft, or they want to offer you maybe happy ending, but it directly conflicts with Soft Power at Signature." Like a full conflict. So I was going to have to choose, and that was going to be a really hard decision. But then the production got pushed back because of some technical stuff, and the timing just worked out. So I was able to end Soft Power, make some trips to New York to start maybe Happy Ending, and then join them officially in September. So.
That's yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, having to choose between those two would have been kind of impossible. Like, there's obviously something so new and just exciting that you would have wanted to do, but then obviously soft power is so, meaningful to you as well. Where it's like where do you choose? But again, things happen the way they're supposed to, and obviously got to finish out both, do both, which is so, so fun. And what was the thing that you think spoke to you the most when you did, first do the audition, or even like once you got the full script and got to read that? Like, what was the moment in the show that really spoke to you?
Hmm. There was just something about the energy of the script, of the material that I auditioned with. The "Where You Belong" song. I just love the music of Will Aronson's beautiful music. But the idea of belonging, that's definitely like a theme in my life, in my artistry. Um, and then when I got to know the story and read the script, I think at our first like cast Zoom meeting, um, I like raised my virtual hand. I said, I think this story is about Korean adoption, and you know, probably scared everybody. But yeah, that's suffice it to say, this story struck very deep. The fact that it takes place in Korea, it just in a lot of ways felt like a coming home. Coming home to Broadway, coming a story about Korea. It just felt, sort of like kismet.
Yeah, no, and obviously, stories can each have their own personal, meaning to each person, but for that to be kind of maybe it for you, is so just amazing to hear about. And, if people were to go and see you to have that extra layer, on top of it, I think just would make it even more powerful with just what the story is about. And, knowing that it's about, little robots, trying to go through life, but there's a lot of personal and real life, things that we can apply it to. So that's really cool. And do you have a favorite moment in maybe Happy Ending, either to do or to watch or just to hear? I don't know, whatever.
There's so many great moments. I love Helen J. Shen's song, Claire's song, um, What I Learned from People. That solo. That there's something about the story, the words, the music of that song that just gets so deep. All
Mhm.
of all of Claire's material, um, Learn How to Not Be Alone.
Yeah.
That song is just so beautiful and so to me speaks so to the overarching theme of the piece and our time. After the pandemic, we have to sort of learn to come off Zoom, be back in person with each other, and how do we do that? We have to learn how to not be alone. So I just think that they got it. They went to the core and really did it. Beautiful way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they really got it with this show and the material, especially like you said with Claire's. I think that was the first time, obviously, hearing that song when I saw the show, for the first time, and I was just blown away because I was like expecting it because I'd heard all of the different cast members talk about that song, but I didn't get to like hear any of the lyrics or obviously the music until I saw the show. And then I'd actually listened to just the like Korean version of What I Learned from People before seeing the show, and then to hear like all the English lyrics and be like, oh, this is what that's about. It kind of
Yeah.
blew my mind of like all the possibilities of what was going on. And yes, like the music I think is draws people in so much with this show. And it's just so beautiful. And do you have a favorite song maybe to sing or to perform. I guess James doesn't have like the, longest songs in the show. He mostly just has, Where You Belong, but maybe a song that you wish you could sing if you could, whatever you want to interpret that as.
Yeah, I mean, I love Where You Belong. I also do cover Gil Brentley, which is the jazz singer,
Right.
and I love getting to sing all his material too. Man, but there's so many like Sentimental Person. I love of Gil's, but I love the song When You're in Love, the duet between Oliver and Claire. I just think it's such a. I remember the first time I watched like a full run or heard it, I was like, it's so interesting that song in this piece. It sort of really stands alone. But to, Will and Q Park's genius, it just like highlights something really special about their experience. And so I love that song, and I love trying to sing that song backstage because it's really hard.
No, it is such a beautiful song. I think that's the first song I ever heard from the show when they like put out all the promo stuff, and I was like, wow, this
Yeah.
is like it drew me in truly, and it made me a fan before I even saw the rest of it. But yeah, that's a great song. And how did you begin discovering your versions of both Gil and James? Like, because they are very different characters as well, and have a lot. I mean, James's track is like, kind of a up and down craziness going on all the time, and then Gil is kind of just chilling for a lot of it, and just appears when he needs to sing a great ballad. And so, what was it like trying to discover, who they are for yourself?
Hmm, a great question. Yeah, I mean, James, I felt connected to. Like, it was funny. I was recently like messaging with Hugh when he was in Korea, and I think he said something like, "Daniel, I'm Oliver," and I was like, "Hugh, I'm James." Like, I I sadly relate to this man a lot because James is a complicated guy, and um, so he was sort of just in me, but it's been like just creating the history with his son, with his wife, trying to really dissect the script that is so efficient and in a beautiful way, but just trying to flush out those relationships as much as possible, to understand how James has ended up alone in his very beautiful apartment without his wife and his son. Um, and then Gil, I did some research of like what Asian American jazz singers, band leaders were there in the 1940s and 50s? What did that look like for human beings in a body like mine? And there wasn't tons, but there definitely were some people that I found that I just reading their stories and understanding their history, a lot of the immigrant history. um I don't even know if I am like technically applying it to what I'm doing, but just knowing that history um gives me sort of the reason to pay honor to those people that really existed.
Yeah. No,
So
yeah,
yeah.
definitely. I love knowing that about, the character, because it could be just taken as like the face value of what it is, just he comes and sings these great songs and then, leaves, and it applies to the story, but maybe the character work is it's a little different than most musical theater pieces I think we've seen. Where it is, I guess, just a different kind of track, and that's totally amazing, of course. But just to see, as actors, like the work we do isn't always visible is what like a lot of my teachers have been talking about in the recent year at school, and just like if you know it is like the whole thing of like what you are thinking or what you're saying, or what's going on inside, and whether the audience sees that is great if they do, and if they don't, it's okay too, because it's like it's the work that is not always visible that sometimes is the most important. And so yeah, that's a great thing I think to know about Gil's character, because it does change whether it's an Asian American person or a white person playing the role. It does have like slight implications, not large, but it's just something to think about, which is great. And how has it been, maybe not directly interacting, but working with Hwabun?
Oh, that diva. No, I. It's an honor to work with Hua Boon. They are a star. They are the most consistent uh, actor on that stage. No, everyone's consistent. No, it's been a dream, and very exciting to see Hua Boon's rise to fame.
Yeah, and I'm like, I love that Hua Boon has become the talk of the town, really, when it comes to this show. It's just, Hua Boon's getting all of the accolades that they deserve. And another question is, because you did the Flower Drum Song Revival more than 20 years ago with Marcus Choi, and you guys have been friends for forever, what it feels like, what is it like to be in a show again together?
And it's so wild. I remember, I think I had found out about the show, and then I saw that he posted that he'd been cast. It was like his casting announcement. I think I called him almost immediately. I was like, bro, I'm doing it too. Um, but yeah, what a gift. I mean, just like you can't write that sort of full circle story, because Marcus and I have, I consider him family, and he's been, we've been through a lot together, and I love that guy. I look up to him so much. He's like a big brother to me, and so yeah, to get to do this with him is a total dream come true. But
No, and yeah, to go from, a show like Flower Drum Song with all the different historical implications that has as well to bringing another new generation of like Asian American theater with maybe happy ending. I think
yes,
it's very important to address, and it's so cool that, you guys are both in it together, which is always great to have good people around you. So yeah. And what do you hope people take from maybe Happy Ending? Because obviously we all have our own personal things, but what is something you hope audiences learned from the show?
I think you said it. It is very personal, but almost across the board, everyone that of my friends or just people I know that have come and seen it that I've had the gift of talking to after the show just are have been deeply affected by the piece in I can tell in very personal ways. I I I think our show is about love, ultimately. I said our show, if you've ever really loved someone or really lost someone, our show's for you, because I just think that it's about that, it's about belonging to someone, wanting to belong to someone, either in a romantic way or in a deeper, relationship way. So yeah, I just hope that people come and are affected by it, that they feel it, and getting to watch the show so many times as a standby, every time I get something different, it just sort of deepens and deepens and deepens. And I think that's super credit to the amazing material. It just, I think our show could sort of appear like a Pixar film, sort of like, not that those aren't deep too, but like a Pixar film. It can appear sort of fun and light, but like a Pixar film, Pixar goes deep sometimes. It's like, some of those, something I'll be like, damn, they really went in, so I think our show does the same thing in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I've been, saying that it's kind of like you said, the Pixar right now of Broadway, where, sometimes those hit really deep and they get really dark really fast. Um,
Yes.
and you don't even know where it came from at all. But, it just has this really big impact on people. And, um, it's so people have like talked about how like silent it is in the theater too. Like everyone's just so locked in on what's happening. Like no one's really distracted or, doing something else or on their phones. It's like everyone's just locked into this story that really makes an impact on everyone. And so I just love the show. I want to go back really bad. When I have the time, I'll hopefully come back. And for opening, you wore like a gorgeous Korean hanbok, and like, what was the story about that? And like, as a Korean American, what did it feel like to kind of debut that for Broadway?
My gosh, that was such a gift. My amazing friend Jeff, who's also a Korean adoptee, um, he designs them. He designs these beautiful humbooks, and I'd been following him on social media on Instagram. Maybe there's a way we can like tag him in whatever.
Yeah.
I want to give him that support. But yeah, I've been following him on Instagram really through the pandemic. I was like, these pieces are so beautiful, and I knew he was an adoptee, and so yeah, when opening came, I he had just posted this beautiful piece that I ended up wearing, and I was like, oh man, that would be really cool to get to wear that. So I reached out to him, and he was so amazing and generous, just wanting to give and design. And he's like, if anyone else in the cast, wants me to style them or work with them, please. So he was really excited about it. And he also designed Marcus Choi's opening night look as well. So I'm so grateful to him. He really made it a special
Yeah.
night.
Yeah, no, I saw all the photos obviously from opening, and just to see everyone kind of represent their own cultural background, I think is so cool because like you don't see a hanbok or a chi pao much on Broadway, or like, the barong. It's like it's not the most popular thing to wear obviously on Broadway, but to see an entire cast and really embracing their cultural heritage through their dress is so powerful, I think, to see, just to kind of normalize it a little bit. Because it's obviously stuff that we ourselves know about. And me as a Chinese person, I'm like, yep, that's a qipao, that's great. But to also have appreciation for all the other ones is so good, and to obviously uplift some designers. So I'll get the handle later and we'll put it in the bio so that, if anyone is interested in checking out the work, it'll be there. And for you, how different? I guess this is an interesting question because I've been asking a lot of people like what it feels like to be in a room of Asian creatives, but you've obviously had a lot of experience in rooms like that, which is obviously a gift and a blessing and something that I hope to, experience at some point soon in my life. But what about maybe Happy Ending maybe felt different from those other experiences? Just whatever you want to interpret this question as.
Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite thing and greatest gift is working with other Asian creatives. And it's different. I mean, the size of our cast, I think, is really special. The fact that there's only four on stage, eight total people, um, just the intimacy of that. And, but the whole room, I mean, Michael Arden really led with such open, um, an openness and like fighting against perfection. That was like one of the first things he told us was like, don't be perfect, and perfect is like the antithesis of like creation, and but yeah, I mean, Hugh Park, Emilio Ramos, our amazing associate director, um, and then all our fellow cast members. There's just something that's I don't know. It's sort of unspoken. John Yoon, our music director, Eric King, like Deborah Abramson, our music supervisor. Just having those faces, those people in the room. It just I don't know. It feels warm. It feels safe. I think that sort of unspokenness it gives a space to create that gets to create wonderful art, when you feel that sort of ability to just be yourself and be open, And I feel very blessed to have been on a lot of rooms like that, so including this one.
Yeah, no, it seems like credit after credit. I was like, these are just the groundbreaking like pinpoints, I guess, of like Asian musical theater. And you kind of most people would think to just have one of maybe those, but it's like to have a full career of those just seems like, such a special experience. Because I mean, working with other Asian people is like there's nothing like that. Or when you have that kind of companionship and friendship in that, and trusting each other. And I think this show has just everyone seems to really trust each other so much, and just put so much faith into what the material is, and how to portray the story. And so it's like when you have a room like that, you really can't fail. You can't fail when it comes to work that is so, you can tell there's so much passion behind it.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. So I love that.
And I have to say, like, a lot of mornings we would circle up to check in, and the things that not always, but the things that we would share would be about our experience as being Asian people in just in the world, and getting to do that, I think then opened up, okay, but now let's get to work, opened up the work in a very special way, but it really was just about sharing our human experience, with everyone in the room. So I'm
Yeah.
very grateful.
Yeah. No, when you do get to open up, it's like you're not the only Asian person in the room anymore. There's like seven, 10 other people who are also Asian. And so then you get to have your individuality because you're not the only one who's in that cast who's Asian, which is so special. And I hope, more Asian American people get to have that feeling because it's
Yeah.
important to have community within, cast and doing something that we love so much and being able to be fully ourselves is very important. And since you've been a part of so many Asian shows, like including Soft Power, Viet Gone, Flower Drum Song, maybe Happy Ending, like how has each of these shows, I guess, shaped your career and just your perspective in the theater?
Yeah, I mean, everyone since Flower Drum Song it just feels like a huge gift. Growing up as an adoptee in a white family, like I didn't, in my younger life, I didn't really have a connection to my Asianness. And doing Flower Drum Song was so formative to me because being in a cast of entirely Asian and Asian American people, um, it felt like I was getting the sort of experience of being in an Asian family, and that was just sort of the beginning. And every time I am blessed with that experience, it just, I hope it opens my mind, it opens my heart, definitely, and teaches me a lot about um, a different experience that I didn't necessarily have in some ways. I feel like the the older I've gotten, the sort of um, as an Asian man in the world, I do have that experience now, and so just being able to connect those dots that are is a constant process has really been through theater and the people and the community that I found here. All my amazing friends and colleagues that I've worked with, and just people I know through the Asian theater community is it really is like family, and I don't use that word lightly. I just I feel very blessed to have our community, and be a part of it.
Community is always just so important, and to have the found family, that we all experience at some point or another in our lives. And do you have advice for people who are just starting out or just getting into what performing is to them?
Yeah, I think look for that community. There's a phrase like go where the love is, go where it's warm. Like when you meet those people, whoever they are that you connect with, like nurture those connections, and really I think making that the priority, the connections and the work that you're doing that's in front of you, as opposed to some lofty, amazing goal that we all have. Because I did that for a long time, and it really is it's a hard, painful life to live if the one thing I'm living for is this one small target goal. So sort of entering this with sort of self-care, balance. I love the people in my cast, specifically my fellow standbys. They just all I say like I'm a good few years older than most than them, but I'm like I feel like you guys are raising me. They're just like all so they have just such a great perspective and level head about this stuff, about self-care, about balance. And I think so just as much as do the work, pursue the dream, but also understand that you're a whole human. You get to be a human being. You don't have to be perfect. This is a process. And if you're on the road, like I believe if you're on the road, if you're out there auditioning, doing stuff, you're on the road. It's happening. So try and throw all those worries into that trust, into the fact that you're already doing it. It's happening. So, you know, try to enjoy it. Try and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, no, I think that is so important for young people to hear, where it's like, there's always, again, like you said, that dream, but it's like enjoying the process and really knowing that, whether you're on Broadway or you're still just an auditioning actor or you're in school, it's like that's all part of the journey, and there's no one way to get to your dreams. It's like it's what you make of it. And to understand that, like you said, we are full people. I try to say that all the time of like, we have to have life outside of the theater as well, where so that we can portray life on stage. Because if we don't have a life off stage, what are you gonna do? Theater cannot be the end all be all for your life, and so that's just again just such a good thing to think about and plant the seed hopefully in younger people's minds of just hopefully they'll develop those thoughts on their own as well. And to finish it out, what is the thing that you like to do that doesn't maybe have to do with theater or art or just something fun, random? I like food.
Love food too. I love to cook. I'm not great at cooking like daily meals. I probably eat out a little too much, but I love cooking like a big dinner. Like Thanksgiving for our family, I'll often sort of head the charge on that. Yeah, my favorite thing is to like have a holiday or a vacation where you go home, you have like the whole day, family's just in the house, your friends or whatever, and yeah, just getting to like pull out a bunch of recipes and make a big dinner and then share that. Like I love throwing a party, whether that means a big thing or just like having people over. You know, I just that's my favorite thing to do.
I mean, with Asian people, we love to have food communities. I guess
We're around the kitchen table.
that's just kind of what we do. And so, yeah, food is obviously such a big important thing in a lot of our lives, but that's so fun. When you get the time, like you said, maybe not the daily stuff, but when you have like a couple hours to just like, get it all done and not have too much stress. I think that's the best version of cooking when there's no stress. But how can everyone continue to find you on like Instagram, I guess, or social media, or just continue to support you and your work?
Of course, Instagram's probably the best way. I'm at Daniel May Official.
The only official Daniel.
Yeah.
But Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today about maybe happy ending and about your incredible career. It's been just the best getting to chat about all of that because you have a lot of wisdom, and so thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for this service to our community. It's awesome.
Yes, and thank you to everyone listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.
You've been listening to Broadway Corner with Ashley Ha. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.